Hello and welcome back to another video. So adapters have been around for as long as cameras have had different flange distances between different models. Now the flange distance is the amount of space needed from the mount to the sensor or the film. That distance varies for different brands of cameras, and if you've got a camera that has got a shorter flange distance than another camera manufacturer, you can put an adapter in between to take up the space and provide a mount for those different lenses. This here is an example of a Nikon mount that is not a smart adapter in any way. As you can see, there are no contacts on the front or the back to transmit any information. However, there are some adapters out there that do more than just take up that space. That's where an adapter like this one comes in. This has got contacts on the front and the back to communicate from the camera lens to the camera body, so it knows what aperture it was shot at and what focal length was used. Another thing that this kind of adapter does is allow you to use autofocus. Now, it can be pretty touchy as to whether or not the autofocus works right with a specific camera body, but as each generation comes out of adapter, they get better and better. This adapter here is the Commlite HS-AF adapter EF to E mount. Now this adapter does a couple things that is different than any other adapter I've seen. First of all, it's got a little mounting shoe on it, which the Nikon version of the same brand has, but this one is fixed. And it gets in the way when you're trying to mount the camera onto a tripod without using this foot, or if you're trying to change lenses when the camera's already on the tripod. I found that this thing just gets in the way. However, on this Canon version, you can just simply screw it off and it stays out of your way. On the front of the adapter, you've got a Canon mount, and on the back of the adapter, you have got an E mount. You can see it says E mount FX, which is kind of funny because FX is actually Nikon's term for full frame. So anyways, we've got a metal mount on both sides. You can see the contacts for the Canon lens in here and the contacts for the Sony mount over there. This allows you to take a Canon lens like this 50mm here, mount it up to the adapter, and then stick it onto a Sony body. And after that, you're ready to shoot with autofocus enabled. And for size reference, once you get this little 50mm mounted up there, it becomes almost identical to the size of the 10-18 f4. This adapter is supposed to detect whether or not the lens and the camera are compatible with contrast detect or phase detect autofocus. It seems that the auto selection doesn't really work that well, but there is a button on the back of this adapter that if you push and hold this button while you turn on the camera, it'll enable contrast detect autofocus, which means that on the Sony cameras, you actually get video autofocus that works. Kind of. So I tested the functionality on a few different Canon lenses. The 50mm prime here seemed to work the best out of all lenses. It had nearly perfect autofocus when shooting pictures. It had passable to good autofocus in video mode. I tried the 55 to 250, which worked very well in photo mode, but autofocus in video was not really there. It didn't really work well. And finally, I tried the 18 to 135, which didn't seem to work at all. I couldn't get it to successfully autofocus in photo mode, nor video mode. It would kind of jump back and forth, it would make some noise, and you could never get it to actually lock onto anything. So this one didn't work. But I spent most of my time with the 50mm prime on there because it seemed to work the best, and I enjoy shooting with the 50mm. Autofocus was accurate and almost as fast as a native Sony lens. It worked very well and left very little to be desired when it comes to autofocus. When you switch to video mode, it was a little bit jumpy and a little bit hesitant, but it was passable as far as video autofocus goes. Definitely wasn't anywhere near as good as the native Sony lenses are. If you push this button while powering on the camera to switch it into contrast detect autofocus, eye autofocus then worked, and it worked very well, as well as face detection and other features that are specific to contrast detect focus. Occasionally things would get weird and the adapter would completely freeze up and no autofocus would work at all. To fix that, all you do is take the adapter off the camera body, mount it back up, and you're ready to go. I've had this same problem with several other adapters as well, so I don't know if it's a Sony thing or a Commlite thing, but it's a pretty easy fix. This adapter does allow you to mount Canon EF lenses, which are their full frame lenses, as well as their EFS lenses, which are their crop sensor lenses. You can see that that just mounts right on there, and then you're ready to start shooting with the lens designed for an APS-C size sensor. But the real question is, should you buy the Commlite adapter? It's about half the price of the equivalent Metabones adapter, which is regarded as one of the best Canon to Sony adapters out there, and it supposedly works spectacularly. I haven't had a chance to try it, but this does a phenomenal job considering it's only $150. It is still $150, and before you go out and buy it, definitely look up your specific lens on this specific adapter to make sure that it works. I only got to try these 3 lenses, and out of the 3 lenses, one of them has got 100% functionality, this one's got about 85% functionality, and the 18-135 has got 0% functionality. So you definitely want to make sure that whatever lens you're hoping to adapt to your Sony bodies is supported to at least some extent before you pull the trigger and spend that kind of money. So my thoughts at the end of the day, the build quality is there, the functionality is there, and that's really all there is to one of these adapters. So it gets a thumbs up for me, maybe tilted a little bit sideways, because there are some quirks to it as well as some incompatibilities. So if you're looking to get a Canon to Sony adapter and you want to save a few bucks, check the link in the description for this Commlite adapter. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, go ahead and subscribe for good measure, and we'll see you in the next one.